In the world of physics, some quantities are pretty simple to describe, like the temperature outside, but others are way more complex, like the force of the wind. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're going to unpack the crucial difference between these two types of measurements, scalars and vectors. So here's our game plan. First step, we'll nail down the definitions of scalars and vectors. Then we'll get into the visual language of how to put them together. After that, we'll tackle a real-world problem with a ship to see it in action, check out a cool experiment that proves the theory, and finally, we'll master a super powerful technique for breaking vectors down into smaller, more manageable parts. All right, let's start with the absolute basics. What really is the fundamental difference between a scalar and a vector? Well, at its core, it's actually pretty simple. A scalar is just a size, a magnitude. Think 10 kilometers. That's it. But a vector needs more. It has both that magnitude and a direction. So it's not just 10 kilometers, it's 10 kilometers north. And believe me, that one little addition of direction changes everything. So to put it a little more formally, a scalar quantity is something you can fully describe with just its size and its unit. Nothing else needed. A vector quantity, on the other hand, absolutely has to have a direction to be complete. If you leave that part out, you're really only telling half the story. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Just look at these common examples from physics. Mass, speed, energy, temperature, those are all scalars. But then you've got weight, velocity, acceleration, and force. Those are all vectors. Take weight, for instance. It's a force that is always acting downwards towards the center of the Earth. The direction is literally baked right into the definition. So now that we know what they are, let's talk about the visual language we use to actually work with them. So, how do you draw one? Well, the standard way is with a simple arrow. The length of that arrow tells you its magnitude, how big the force or velocity is, and the arrowhead, of course, shows us which way it's going. It's a simple idea, but it's an incredibly powerful visual tool. Now, adding vectors is at its easiest when they're all lined up. If they're pointing in the same direction, you just add their magnitudes together. A 30 Newton force plus a 20 Newton force gives you 50. Easy. If they're pointing in opposite directions, you subtract them. 30 minus 20 leaves you with a net force of just 10 newtons. But what happens when they're not parallel? This is where the tip-to-tail method becomes absolutely essential. So imagine you draw the first vector. Then, starting from the tip of that first one, you draw the second one. The resultant, which is just the net effect, is the arrow that completes the triangle, running from the tail of the first vector to the tip of the second one. And what about subtracting a vector? Well, this is a clever little trick. Instead of actually trying to take it away, you just add its opposite. So to figure out A minus B, you take vector B, you flip it around 180 degrees to get negative B, and then you just add that to A using the same tip-to-tail method. It's really just addition in disguise. All right, theory is one thing, but let's apply this to a practical problem and see how it all works in the real world. So here's the situation. We've got a ship sailing north at 12 kilometers per hour, but at the same time, there's an ocean current pushing it east at 4 kilometers per hour. So the big question is, what is the ship's actual velocity, its real speed and direction, relative to someone standing on the shore? We can solve this in a couple of ways. One way is with a scale drawing, where you'd literally use a ruler and a protractor to draw the vectors and then just measure the results. The other way, which is way more precise, is the calculation method, where we use the geometry of a right-angled triangle to find the exact answer. And this is where that high school trigonometry really comes in handy. We use Pythagoras' theorem to find the magnitude of the resulting velocity, and that comes out to 12.6 kilometers per hour. Then, to find the direction, we use the tangent function. Remember, opposite over adjacent. That gives us an angle of 18.4 degrees east of north. Now, I know this might all seem a bit abstract, just drawing lines on a page. So let's take a look at a classic lab experiment that proves the vector triangle isn't just a drawing tool, it's a physical reality. This classic experiment is just a beautiful illustration of the concept of equilibrium. You've got a pulley system with 3 weights, and it just settles into a perfect balance. Now, here's the really cool part. If you draw the 3 force vectors from those weights tip to tail, they form a perfect closed triangle. This is a visual proof that the net force is 0. The vectors have physically canceled each other out, which is why nothing is moving. All right, let's get to our final section. We've seen how to add vectors together to get a single resultant force. Now, we're going to learn how to do the exact reverse, how to break a single vector down into more useful parts. This is called resolving vectors. The main idea is this. We can take any single vector, say a force acting at an angle, and we can think of it as being made up of 2 simpler vectors that are at right angles to each other. We call these its horizontal and its vertical components. And trust me, this is an incredibly powerful technique for simplifying all sorts of complex problems. So how do we figure out the size of these components? Well, once again, it all comes down to simple trigonometry on a right-angled triangle. The horizontal component is the magnitude of the vector, f, times the cosine of the angle. And the vertical component is f times the sine of the angle. These are your essential tools for this job. Let's apply this right now. Here's a glider being towed by a cable. The tension in that cable is a force of 620 newtons, and it's acting at an angle of 25 degrees to the horizontal. What we want to find is how much of that force is actually pulling the glider forward and how much is just pulling it upward. So we just use our component formulas and we can find the answers. The horizontal component is 620 times the cosine of 25 degrees, which gives us 560 newtons of forward pull. The vertical component is 620 times the sine of 25 degrees, and that results in 260 newtons of upward lift. Just like that, we've successfully broken down one complex force into 2 much more manageable parts. So let's pull all of this together. We started with the one core idea. Scalars are just numbers, but vectors have both magnitude and direction. We learned how to draw them as arrows and add them up tip to tail to find the resultant vector. And most powerfully, we saw how we can take any vector and resolve it into its perpendicular components using just a little bit of trigonometry. This is the fundamental toolkit you need for working with forces, velocities, and so much more in physics. And that's our deep dive into scalars and vectors. Hopefully, you now have a really solid foundation for how these essential quantities work. Thanks for joining me.
The screen presents essential keywords for this topic categorized by different exam boards. These terms need careful focus while studying as they are very important and should not be ignored at any cost. Moreover, past paper analysis for each board and paper type is also included. Pay close attention to this section as it will significantly strengthen your preparations. Also make an effort to understand how each keyword is used in the context instead of just memorizing them separately. Regular use of these terms in past paper practice will improve your accuracy and exam performance.
Please subscribe our channel to get more educational videos. Thank you.